Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. This time we're diving deep into some science fiction.
Ooh, fun!
Specifically, an excerpt from a serial called Bathed in Starlight
Okay.
by Aurora Moon McKnight.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. And, one of our listeners actually sent this in.
Oh, cool.
Wanted to hear our take on it, particularly the world building and the storytelling.
Yeah, world building in science fiction can be really immersive when it's done well.
Totally. And this excerpt doesn't disappoint.
So what's the story about?
Well, it drops us right into this dinner conversation
Okay.
between the narrator, Tabitha, her newly rejuvenated best friend, Mira.
Rejuvenate,
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
And Mira's husband, Rali, who's Nelnoranthian.
Nelnoranthian. Now, that sounds alien.
Oh, it is. And they're at this incredible futuristic cafe.
I was about to say the setting is usually a big part of world building.
For sure. And this one is so vivid. I mean, McKnight really brings it to life.
So what's it like? This cafe?
Well, just picture this. They're overlooking Moose Centauri with a view of a black hole.
Okay. That's pretty impressive.
Right. And she describes, colored light glinting off of gilded finery.
Ooh, fancy.
Servers blending into the background in matte black.
Okay, so high tech, high class.
Definitely. But then she contrasts that with, the dusty old bones of the rest of us draped in expensive fabrics.
Interesting juxtaposition. So we've got advanced technology wealth, but also this awareness of aging.
Exactly. And that contrast really sets the stage for the themes McKnight explores.
It makes you think about how these advancements might change our perceptions of aging.
Totally. And it's not just the setting that hints at these anxieties. Well, there's this one detail I noticed where Tabitha, the narrator, compares herself to a carrot.
A carrot?
Yeah, it's when they're describing the food.
Okay.
She's looking at this succulent carrot, and she's thinking about Mira's youthful vibrancy after the rejuvenation process.
Ah, so the carrot is like a symbol of Mira's newfound youth.
Exactly. And it highlights this this fear almost that Tabitha has of losing her own vitality.
Yeah. It's a pretty universal fear, isn't it? Getting older, losing that youthful energy.
Definitely. And, McKnight doesn't just use food for symbolism.
Oh.
There's this other moment where Tabitha's struggling to cut her steak,
Oh,
and she's watching Mira just effortlessly slice through hers.
Oof. I feel that.
Right. And she even mentions how the steak represents this ease of youth.
So it's not just about looking young, it's about feeling capable, too.
Exactly. Like she's worried about losing not just her looks, but her ability to do things.
Yeah, I can see how that would be even more unsettling than just physical aging.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder how much of our own anxieties about getting older are tied to these societal expectations,
Absolutely. Like we're conditioned to equate youth with capability and value.
Right. And that brings us to the Nelnoranthians.
Ah, yes, the mysterious aliens.
Right. We learned that they have this ability to reverse aging in other beings.
Which explains Mira's youthful appearance.
Exactly. But McKnight only gives us glimpses into their world.
Leaving us wanting more. Oh, for sure. It's like she's dangling a carrot in front of us.
His pun.
Thanks. So we know they're advanced, capable of interstellar travel, have this incredible technology.
But their motivations, their culture, it's all shrouded in mystery.
Exactly. And I think that air of mystery is intentional.
How so?
Well, it draws us in. It makes us want to know more about them and their role in this story.
It's like Chekhov's gun.
Right.
You introduce something intriguing early on, and we just wait for it to go off.
Exactly. And speaking of intriguing elements, there's this other group. McKnight introduces the Neeth.
Okay, fill me in.
Well, they're described as this zealot cult opposed to the Nelnoranthians and their life-extending practices.
Really? So they're against rejuvenation?
Yeah. They believe death is a right and privilege.
Wow. That's a pretty extreme viewpoint.
It is. And it raises some interesting questions about, our own anxieties about mortality and interfering with the natural order of things.
Especially in today's world where we're constantly pushing the boundaries of life expectancy. Exactly. And just as we're processing all this, McKnight throws in a major plot twist.
Oh.
Mira reveals she was being followed.
What?
Yeah, and Tabitha immediately suspects the Neeth.
Ooh, that's a good way to raise the stakes.
Totally. It's not just philosophical debates anymore. There's a real tangible threat.
And it makes you question everything. Is the rejuvenation process as safe as it seems? What are the Neeth capable of?
Exactly. And just when the tension is at its peak, we get that classic cliffhanger ending.
Don't leave me hanging.
Oh, I won't, Rali. The Nelnoranthian husband offers to explain everything from the beginning.
Okay, now I'm really hooked. What secrets is he hiding? What will he reveal?
That's what we're left to wonder. It's a brilliant way to keep readers engaged and eager to uncover the truth.
And it sets the stage for a much larger story, one that goes beyond just the science fiction element.
For sure. It's about human relationships, the choices we make, and what it means to be human in a world where the boundaries of life and death are blurred.
I like it. It's thought-provoking and suspenseful.
Exactly. And we're just getting started. Now let's delve a bit deeper into Tabitha's character. You mentioned in your notes that you found her relatable.
Oh, absolutely. She's not some superhuman or scientist. She's just an ordinary woman navigating this extraordinary situation.
Right, and that's what makes her so compelling. We see the world through her eyes, experiencing her anxieties, her curiosity, her struggle to make sense of everything that's happening.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that feeling of being overwhelmed by change and uncertainty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Remember how we talked about McKnight's use of food as more than just a backdrop? Well, Tabitha's reaction to the bubbly red alcohol is another great example of that.
Yeah, remind me.
So she takes a sip, and it triggers this wave of nostalgia, transporting her back to a time when she and Mira were young and carefree, writing stories together.
Oh, that's sweet.
It is. But it also highlights how much has changed since Mira's rejuvenation.
Like a bittersweet memory.
Exactly. And that change is at the heart of the story. We see it in the way people treat Tabitha differently, almost dismissing her because she hasn't undergone rejuvenation.
That's interesting. So even in a future where aging can be reversed, those societal prejudices still linger.
Right. It's a subtle but powerful critique of those beauty standards and the value we place on youth.
It makes you wonder if those ingrained biases would simply find new ways to manifest.
For sure. And it's something we'll definitely be exploring further as we continue our deep dive into Bathed in Starlight.
I'm looking forward to it, yeah. It's like McKnight is saying, even with this advanced tech, those insecurities about aging don't just disappear.
Exactly. And then there's this whole other layer with the Neeth, vehemently against life extension, and then this futuristic café that feels like a playground for the wealthy and rejuvenated.
It definitely makes you think about access, right? Like, if this technology were real, who would benefit? Who would be left behind?
Huge questions, right? Would it be a right or a privilege? And what happens to those who can't afford it or choose not to go through it?
Exactly. It's like, would we end up with a whole new kind of class divide based on who's young and who's not?
It's wild to think about. And what's interesting is Tabitha's position in all of this.
Right. She's so close to someone who's chosen rejuvenation but hasn't done it herself.
She's caught in between.
Right.
Witnessing the effects, but also grappling with her own feelings about aging.
That makes her such a perfect character to explore these themes. She's not just observing, she's actively wrestling with this new reality.
Totally. And let's not forget she's a writer.
Oh, yeah, you pointed that out. It's significant, right?
Yeah.
Writers chronicle these societal shifts.
Exactly. They give voice to the anxieties and hopes of a changing world.
It's like McKnight chose Tabitha specifically because she can articulate the nuances of this situation and how it affects people on a personal level.
And that's what makes this excerpt so powerful. It's not just about sci-fi concepts, it's about human experiences.
Okay, so we've talked about Tabitha and the societal implications, but let's circle back to the Nelnoranthians.
The big mystery, right? We still know so little about them.
Just enough to be totally intrigued. They can rejuvenate others, but what about themselves? Do they age? Do they die? What are their motivations?
So many questions. And I think that's part of the brilliance of McKnight's writing.
Yeah.
She keeps us guessing. She reveals just enough to pique our curiosity, but leaves a lot to the imagination.
It's like she's painting this vast and complex world, and we only get to see glimpses of it.
Exactly. And those glimpses are both fascinating and a little unsettling.
Like that description of Rali, Mira's husband. He's youthful in appearance, but with these ancient eyes.
You picked up on that too, huh? It's such a striking detail.
It is. Those eyes suggest a long lifespan, maybe even immortality.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder what he's seen. What knowledge does he possess?
Chills, right? To imagine encountering a being who's lived for centuries.
It definitely adds another layer of complexity to the story. And the fact that he's married to Mira, who's chosen rejuvenation, blurs the lines between mortality and immortality.
Right. It makes you think about the nature of relationships in a world where lifespans can be extended indefinitely.
Can a human truly connect with a being who's lived for centuries? What are the challenges? What are the rewards?
Such big questions. And then there's that cliffhanger ending.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
I know, right? Raleigh offers to explain everything from the beginning.
A promise of answers, but also potentially a Pandora's box.
Exactly. What will Tabitha learn? Will the truth set her free, or will it burden her with knowledge she's not ready for?
And that's the genius of it, right? It's not just about revealing information. It's about the potential consequences of that revelation.
McKnight is a master of suspense, that's for sure.
Agreed. So we've talked about the societal implications, the mystery surrounding the Nelnoranthians, but I want to shift gears for a minute and talk about setting.
Ah, yes, setting is so crucial in sci-fi.
It really is. It's not just a backdrop. It's a window into the values and norms of the world being depicted.
And in this excerpt, McKnight uses setting to create this incredible sense of both wonder and unease.
Okay, so how does she do that?
We'll take the café, for example. This opulent space overlooking Mu Centauri with a view of a black hole.
It screams advanced technology and luxury.
Right. But it's also where those anxieties about aging are most apparent.
Like that contrast you mentioned earlier, the dusty old bones juxtaposed with the youthful vibrancy of the rejuvenated.
Exactly. And it makes you think about whether those societal perceptions of aging would ever truly disappear.
Even with the ability to reverse it, would there be new forms of prejudice based on who's had more rejuvenation cycles or who looks younger?
Chilling thought, right?
Totally. And then there's the solarium garden, this tranquil space with zen gardens, fountains, and plants.
You'd think it would be a haven, right? But even there are hints of tension and danger.
Like Mira revealing she was being followed, and the need for null field technology to ensure privacy in the Solarium Nooks.
It's almost like McKnight is saying there's no escaping the anxieties of the modern world, even in this futuristic setting.
And that's what makes it so relatable, right? No matter how advanced we become, those underlying fears and anxieties are always there lurking beneath the surface.
Absolutely. So we've got this incredible blend of technological wonder and societal critique wrapped up in this beautifully written story.
It's a world that feels both familiar and strangely alien.
Exactly. And it's a world that leaves us wanting more.
Okay, so we've dissected this excerpt from every angle, but why should the listener care? What makes this story worth their time?
That's a great question. On one level, it's simply a captivating read. It's a story that pulls you in with its mystery, intrigue, and compelling characters.
But it's also so much more than that.
Right. It speaks to these deeper anxieties and aspirations we all have. It's about the challenges and opportunities of technological advancements, the complexities of human relationships, and the search for meaning in a constantly changing world.
It's a story that makes you think about your own place in the world, your values and beliefs, the kind of future you want to create.
And it reminds us that science fiction at its best isn't just about escaping into fantastical worlds. It's about using those worlds to examine our own reality and the choices we face.
Exactly. It's about exploring the potential consequences of our actions, the ethical dilemmas we might encounter, and the enduring power of human connection.
So if you're looking for a story that will stay with you long after you've finished reading it, a story that will make you question your assumptions and spark conversations about the future of humanity, then Bathed in Starlight is definitely worth checking out.
Agreed. McKnight has created something truly special.
Absolutely. And this excerpt is just a taste of what she has to offer.
It really is something special. You know, we've talked a lot about the societal and technological stuff, but I think one thing that really elevates this excerpt is McKnight's use of foreshadowing.
Ooh, yeah. You highlight some examples in your notes. What jumped out at you?
Well, the introduction of the Neeth, right? Early on, it's subtle, but as sci-fi fans, we kind of know they're not just a random detail.
They're going to be important.
Exactly. Like she's planting that seed of unease, you know, making us aware of this potential threat from the get-go.
Makes you wonder about the whole rejuvenation thing. Like, is it really as safe and beneficial as it seems?
Right. Tampering with the natural order and all that.
Yeah.
Could there be a price to pay?
And then there's Mira being followed. That's classic foreshadowing, too.
Totally. Creates suspense. Makes us question everything.
And even that little detail about the null field technology in the Solarium Nook.
At first, it just seems like a privacy thing, right?
Yeah, like a luxury feature.
But knowing what we know now about the Neeth and the potential dangers in this society, it takes on a whole new meaning.
It's like a subtle hint that even in this advanced future, you still need to be careful. You can't ever fully let your guard down.
Exactly. McKnight uses these little hints so well. It's like she's piecing together a puzzle, just enough to keep us guessing and wanting more.
And speaking of wanting more, that cliffhanger ending is brutal.
I know, right? Rali offering to explain everything from the beginning. Like the promise of answers, but also maybe too much information.
Yeah, what if the truth is more than Tabitha can handle?
That's the brilliance of it. It's not just about the information itself, it's about the impact it has on the characters.
McKnight knows how to keep us on the edge of our seats, that's for sure.
For sure. And you know, one thing we haven't touched on is her use of language. She doesn't just tell a story, she creates an experience.
Oh, absolutely. You're right there. Her descriptions are so vivid and evocative.
Like, remember how she describes the cafe? Colored light glinting off of gilded finery, servers blending into the background in matte black, and the dusty old bones of the rest of us draped in expensive fabrics.
It's like you're right there. You can practically smell the expensive perfume and see the shimmering lights.
Totally. And the way she contrasts the succulent carrot with Tabitha's wrinkled, spotted skin. It's such a powerful image.
Yeah, it really gets at those insecurities Tabitha has about aging.
It's a reminder that words have power. You know, they can transport us to other worlds, make us feel things challenge our perspectives.
And McKnight is a master of her craft.
For sure. So we've covered a lot of ground today. The world building, the characters, the suspense, the thought-provoking themes. But let's bring it back to the listener. Why should they care about this story?
That's the big question, right? Why does this matter?
Well, on one level, it's just a really good read. It's engaging, it's entertaining, it's got those sci-fi elements that we all love.
But it's also more than that.
Way more. It taps into those universal anxieties and hopes we all have. You know, the challenges of technology, the complexities of relationships, the search for meaning in a world that's always changing.
And it reminds us that sci-fi isn't just about escaping reality. It's about using these fantastical worlds to understand our own a little better.
Exactly. To examine the choices we make, the consequences of our actions, the power of connection in the face of uncertainty.
So if you're looking for a story that will stay with you, a story that will make you think and spark conversations bathed in starlight, is worth your time.
Definitely. And I think this excerpt is just a glimpse of what McKnight has in store for us.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with something to ponder. If you could undergo the Nelnoranthian rejuvenation process, would you? What would you consider?
It's a tough one, right? It forces you to think about aging mortality, the meaning of life, all those big questions.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Bathed in Starlight. It's been a blast.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.